The 3rd of June, 1944. 3 days before the Allied infantry and armoured divisions begin landing on the Normandy coast in France. Despite the increasingly common food shortages and bombings of major cities, Adolf Hitler, together with his companion Eva Braun, attend a wedding which would last 3 days and become the last big social event for the high-ranking Nazi representatives. Gretl Braun, Eva's sister, who would later become the Führer's sister-in-law, marries a high-ranking and quickly advancing SS officer, who together with his unit had committed unspeakable atrocities on civilians in Poland and the area of Soviet Belarus and Ukraine, killing thousands of innocent Jewish men, women and children. His name is Hermann Fegelein. Otto Hermann Fegelein was born on the 30th of October 1906 in Ansbach, then part of the German Empire. His father owned a horse-riding school in Munich, where Hermann became an accomplished rider and participated in various jumping competitions. During this period, Fegelein met Christian Weber, an early member of the Nazi Party, who had a strong ideological influence on him. In 1928, Fegelein joined the Bavarian State Police in Munich and successfully completed his training as an officer cadet. Fegelein's superiors regarded him as someone for whom it was not always easy to steer his ambition in a healthy direction. When it was discovered that he had broken into a superior's office to steal exam questions, his police career came to an abrupt halt in the summer of 1929. Officially, it was reported that he resigned for family reasons, though Fegelein later claimed that he left the police voluntarily to better serve the Nazi Party and SS. In 1930, Fegelein became a member of the Nazi Party, and the same year he also joined the SA. The SA, or Sturmabteilung, was the Nazi paramilitary force also known as the Stormtroopers or Brown Shirts due to the color of their uniforms. On the 30th of January 1933, Adolf Hitler was appointed Chancellor of Germany by President Paul von Hindenburg. Highly ambitious and believing it would advance his career, in April 1933, Fegelein switched from the SA to the SS. During this period, he was employed at the Fegelein Riding Institute, a facility founded by his father in 1926. The institute not only served as a training ground, but was also made available to the SS as a venue for meetings and gatherings, further deepening Fegelein's involvement with National Socialism and the SS. By the mid-1930s, Hermann Fegelein had taken over the administration of the Fegelein Riding Institute from his father. Beginning in November 1935, he played a crucial role in overseeing the preparation of courses and facilities for the equestrian events at the 1936 Berlin Olympic Games. In July 1937, Heinrich Himmler, the head of the SS, established the SS main riding school in Munich, appointing Fegelein as its commander. An accomplished horseman, Fegelein demonstrated his skill by winning the prestigious 1938 Brown Ribbon of Germany, an annual horse race, and harbored strong ambitions to compete in the 1940 Summer Olympics. However, his dream of Olympic glory was not meant to be realized. The Second World War started on the 1st of September 1939 when Germany invaded Poland. The invasion marked the beginning of a brutal campaign known as Blitzkrieg, or Lightning War, characterized by swift, coordinated attacks involving infantry, tanks, and air power. German forces quickly overwhelmed Polish defenses, cutting through the country with devastating efficiency. The Luftwaffe, Germany's air force, unleashed relentless air raids on cities, infrastructure, and military targets, while panzer divisions rapidly advanced across Polish territory. Despite fierce resistance, Poland was unable to withstand the modern warfare tactics deployed by the Germans. Warsaw, the capital, capitulated on the 27th of September after enduring weeks of intense bombardment and siege. By early October, Poland had fallen completely, and the country was divided between Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union, under a secret pact between the two powers. During this time, Fegelein commanded the Death's Head Horse Regiment, which arrived in Poland shortly after the Polish campaign ended. On the 15th of November 1939, the first Death's Head Cavalry Regiment was created on the order of Heinrich Himmler, by expansion of the regiment from 4 to 13 squadrons. Additional members were recruited from the ethnic Germans living in Nazi-occupied Poland. The unit was placed under the command of the Order Police, which operated either independently or in conjunction with the Einsatzgruppen, Nazi mobile death squads. Fegelein's unit took part in the extermination of members of the Polish elite, which became known as Operation Intelligentsia. This operation was part of a systematic effort by the Nazis to destroy Poland's intellectual and cultural backbone. The victims included teachers, priests, writers, and other influential figures, as the Nazis sought to eliminate any potential resistance by targeting the nation's leaders and thinkers. In December 1939, Fegelein's unit was involved in the mass shooting of 1,700 people in the Kampinos Forest. Prisoners consisting of community leaders, professors, teachers, priests or Jews were put on trucks and taken to the Kampinos Forest near the village of Palmary, 23 kilometers northwest of Warsaw. Once the trucks arrived in the forest, prisoners were stripped of their luggage, and some of them would be blindfolded and their hands tied. Next, they were led to the edge of a pit, a prospective mass grave, where they were shot at with long firearms in such a way that their limp bodies slid into the pit. Those who were still alive were shot in the head with short firearms. In some cases, the SS would burn the wounded alive. In April 1941, Fegelein faced court-martial charges for an incident which occurred in 1940, where he and his unit were caught stealing money and luxury goods for transport back to Germany. The Gestapo, the Nazi secret police, informed Himmler that Fegelein had sent looted goods from Poland to the SS Cavalry School in Munich, where many items ended up in members' homes. A search of the school revealed a lorry, a 6-cylinder Mercedes, clothes, furs, and other stolen goods. Additionally, the allegations against Fegelein included murder motivated by greed. He was accused of ordering arrests and executions at the Gestapo prison in Warsaw. Furthermore, Fegelein was charged with having an unlawful sexual relationship with a Polish woman. The Nazis classified Poles and other Slavic peoples as racially inferior, and relationships between Germans and those deemed racially inferior were considered a threat to the so-called purity of the Aryan race. When it was discovered that the woman had become pregnant, Fegelein reportedly forced her to have an abortion. Reinhard Heydrich, the head of the Gestapo, made multiple efforts to investigate the charges against Fegelein, but each time Himmler intervened to shut down the inquiries. Fegelein had convinced Himmler that he was being unfairly targeted, claiming to be the victim of a persecution campaign. As one of Himmler's most favored officers, Fegelein earned the nickname Himmler's Golden Boy. His boyish face and subservient attitude gained him considerable favor with Himmler, who treated him like a son. In April 1940, Fegelein's unit executed 250 Polish men in the Polish countryside, and despite Fegelein's reports stating his troops had acted cleanly and decently, there were many incidents where his men behaved recklessly, killing and robbing civilians without orders. The German invasion of France, Belgium, Luxembourg and the Netherlands started on the 10th of May 1940 and became known as the Battle of France. Fegelein took part in the French campaign, and for his service he was awarded the Iron Cross Second Class. On Sunday the 22nd of June 1941, under the codename Operation Barbarossa, Nazi Germany launched a massive invasion of the Soviet Union, its former ally, in the war against Poland. Fegelein participated on the Eastern Front, where he was soon involved in one of the most brutal campaigns of the war. 1 month after the invasion, Himmler assigned Fegelein's regiments to the systematic combing of the Pripyat swamps, an area located in present-day Belarus and Ukraine. The operation involved the organized extermination of local populations, particularly targeting Jews, suspected partisans, and anyone deemed undesirable by the Nazi regime. Because the numbers killed were too low, in August 1941, Himmler issued an order mandating that all male Jews over the age of 14 be executed. The women and children were to be driven into the swamps and drowned. However, as the water in the swamps was too shallow and some areas lacked swamps entirely, it became impractical to drown the women and children, so they were shot instead. The killing of Jews was often disguised as fighting partisans, and Hermann Fegelein's final report on the operation stated that his unit killed some 16,000 people. The losses of Fegelein's unit were 17 dead, 36 wounded, and 3 missing soldiers. In February 1942, Fegelein took the initiative to lead an assault on a large enemy force northwest of Chertolino in western Russia, despite challenging weather conditions. During a raid, his brigade encircled and destroyed enemy forces, resulting in the deaths of 1,800 Red Army soldiers. From May to July 1943, Fegelein and his division were heavily involved in anti-partisan operations. These operations led to the deaths of thousands, the deportation of tens of thousands, and the destruction of hundreds of villages. In September 1943, Fegelein was severely wounded and spent several weeks recovering in hospital. After his recovery, Himmler assigned him to Hitler's headquarters staff, where he served as a liaison officer and the SS's representative. Hermann Fegelein was known for his charisma and extroverted personality, especially when he was around women. He never missed an opportunity to join the drinking sessions of Nazi elites, once stating that the only things that mattered to him were his career and a life full of fun. Albert Speer, Hitler's chief architect, described Fegelein as one of the most repulsive people in Hitler's inner circle. Another high-ranking army officer, Bernd Freytag von Loringhoven, perceived Fegelein as a vulgar social climber with a dreadful Munich accent, an arrogant demeanor, and poor manners. Fegelein was known as a playboy, flirting with women and engaging in numerous extramarital affairs. Eva Braun, Hitler's companion, appreciated having someone from Hitler's inner circle with whom she could dance and flirt, as Hitler was often distant and avoided showing affection in public. While rumors circulated that Fegelein might have had an affair with Eva, he ultimately proposed to her younger sister, Gretl. The marriage took place on the 3rd of June, 1944, with Fegelein's main motivation being to secure his position within Hitler's inner circle. The wedding was held at the Mirabell Palace in Salzburg, with Adolf Hitler, Heinrich Himmler, and Martin Bormann, the private secretary to Hitler, as witnesses. The reception at the Berghof, Hitler's mountain residence, and the subsequent celebration lasted 3 days. This marriage also provided Hitler with a convenient excuse to invite Eva to public events, as he preferred to keep his private life discreet. The marriage celebration was interrupted on the 6th of June 1944, when reports came in of the Allied landings in Normandy, forcing everyone to shift their focus to the escalating military crisis. During the unsuccessful attempt on Hitler's life on the 20th of July 1944, Hermann Fegelein was at the Wolfslair headquarters in Rastenburg, East Prussia. Fegelein sustained a minor wound to his left thigh from the bomb explosion, and following the failed assassination, he frequently displayed photographs of the men who were hanged as a consequence of the plot. By early 1945, Nazi Germany's situation was desperate, with Allied forces closing in from both the east and west. Hitler, now hiding in his Führerbunker in Berlin, faced the imminent collapse of the Third Reich. The Battle of Berlin, the final major clash of the war, began in mid-April when Soviet forces launched their assault. On the 20th of April, Hitler's birthday, Soviet artillery began pounding the city. By the 21st of April, Red Army tanks had reached the outskirts of Berlin, and by the 27th of April, the city was completely surrounded, sealing its fate as the war neared its end. On the same day, Hitler sent some of his Gestapo bodyguards to track down Fegelein, who, having decided he did not want to join a suicide pact, had abandoned his post at the Führerbunker. When the SS found him in his Berlin apartment, Fegelein was drunk, wearing civilian clothes, and preparing to flee to Sweden or Switzerland. He was carrying cash, both German and foreign, and jewelry, some of which belonged to Eva Braun. A briefcase containing documents that hinted at an attempted peace negotiation with the Allies was also discovered in his apartment. When Fegelein was dragged back to the Führerbunker, he was still intoxicated. He was held in a makeshift cell until the evening of the 28th of April. That night, Hitler learned from a BBC broadcast about Himmler's attempted negotiations with the Western Allies. Heinrich, the famous Nazi aviator, was with Hitler when he heard the news. She later described his reaction. His color rose to a heated red, and his face was unrecognizable. After a lengthy outburst, Hitler sank into a stupor, and for a time, the entire bunker was silent. Adolf Hitler told those still with him in the bunker complex that Himmler's secret negotiations were the worst treachery he had ever known, and ordered Himmler's arrest. Hitler also ordered that Fegelein be stripped of all his ranks, and after some hesitation, he commanded a court-martial. According to the journalist James P. O'Donnell, who conducted extensive interviews in the 1970s, Hitler ordered Wilhelm Mohnke, one of his last remaining generals, to set up a tribunal. According to his testimony, Hermann Fegelein was so drunk that he was crying and vomiting, and even urinated on the floor. Fegelein refused to accept that he had to answer to Hitler, stating that he would answer only to Himmler. Because German military and civilian law both require a defendant to be of sound mind to understand the charges against him, Mohnke closed the proceedings and turned the defendant over to the security squad, never seeing him again. Hermann Fegelein was 38 years old when on the 28th of April 1945, he was taken to the garden of the Reich Chancellery, where, as Traudl Junge, Hitler's last private secretary, described it, he was shot like a dog. Eva Braun, however, had pleaded with Hitler to spare her brother-in-law, trying to justify Fegelein's actions. She argued that her sister, Fegelein's wife, was in the late stages of pregnancy and would need him to provide for them. However, Hitler was unwavering. To him, Fegelein's actions represented nothing but deceit and treachery. On the 29th of April, 1945, Hitler finally married Eva Braun, and the following day, they both committed suicide. Fegelein's wife Gretl survived the war, and on the 5th of May 1945, gave birth to their daughter, Eva Barbara Fegelein, who committed suicide in April 1971 after her boyfriend had died in a car accident. Gretl remarried and died at the age of 72 in 1987. There were no tears shed for Hermann Fegelein. Thanks for watching the World History Channel. Be sure to like and subscribe, and click the bell notification icon so you don't miss our next episodes. We thank you, and we'll see you next time on the channel.